Sorc tanking. Now, let me just say, Sorc tanking, something that is not that useful generally for PvE content. Now, the Sorcerer Tank is one of the tankiest classes that you can play. The main problem with the Sorc Tank is the fact that they don't have very many group buffs. And the group buffs that they do have are easily obtained by having a Sorcerer damage dealer in the group. So, for instance, the main buff that they give is the Minor Prophecy. This is a nice little DPS increase. So, increasing the spell critical rating by 1314 for 20 seconds. Obviously, you will never struggle to find a Sorcerer damage dealer in the Elder Scrolls Online. You'll never struggle to find one. So, unfortunately, this kind of makes the Sorc Tank a little bit useless in the sense of trying to optimize. If you want something that can be really tanky and get through content easy because they are super tanky, then the Sorcerer Tank is maybe an option for you because they are kind of easy to play. Their skill bars are easy to set up because they've got so many vital skills in terms of, like, you've got to use Dark Deal, you've got to use Clan Fear. Clan Fear is on both bars, so then you're kind of running out of space straight away for actual skills to slot. So when it comes to Sorcerer tanking, it is a fantastic option for a tank purely because they are very tanky. They've got some amazing skills that will stop you from dying, and you can take a real beating on a Sorcerer tank. If we just have a look at the actual Sorcerer skills, so Dark Magic to start with. Useful skills in this particular skill tree. You've got Dark Deal, which is probably the most common skill. This you have to be careful with this skill. This is one of the only few skills in the game that a tank would use that drops your block. So Dark Deal, you restore health and stamina over 20 seconds, and it costs Magicka. So this is absolutely fantastic. This is a sustain tool. It will drop your block. It's got a 1 second cast time. So it's going to drop your block for 1 second. You have to be careful. But it's a very good skill. Other skills that are useful here. Obviously, you could use Negate for very few situations. It's not worth it though. Typically, you'll use a Warhorn, so we won't really go into that. Crystal Shard, you've got Crystal Weapon. If you're in a stamina group, this is something potentially that might be needed. From a tank perspective, it's quite difficult to maintain. It's got a very short duration. So if you look at this, in case your weapon in Dark Crystals for 4 seconds, causing your next light heavy attack to deal an additional 6k physical damage, and reduce the target armor by 700 for 5 seconds. So it's not exactly an easy skill to use. If you are playing a kind of more hybridized tank build as maybe an off tank, then yeah, this is something you maybe would use. But only for stamina groups. Crystal Weapon is only vital for a stamina group, and it's better to be used on an actual damage dealer. A damage dealer is going to benefit by using it. A tank, probably not. So, yeah, this is a skill, and if you're a really good tank and really experienced and you're in a low damage situation, yeah, you could probably maintain it, but typically it's going to be a bit difficult. The next skill is Restraining Prison. I've done quite a detailed video on YouTube about this, but this is an amazing skill. This is a root and immobilization skill. It gives you major vitality basically for free. So even if you cast this on a boss, you're going to get major vitality for 3 seconds, and it's also going to refund you the Magicka. So 2,485 Magicka gets refunded when you use it on a boss because it doesn't get immobilized, but you still gain the major vitality, which buffs your healing by 16% for 3 seconds on a boss. You also get this in an ad pull. So in an ad pull, it's got multi-functions. It causes an immobilization to ads. It's only in front of you though, so it's not as good as things like Gripping Shards and Choking Talons, but it's still a pretty decent skill. There's not really many other options for root skills on a Sorcerer tank, so this would be the one that you'd go with. But yeah, fantastic skill. The fact that it's nearly free when you use it on a boss, just for free major vitality, is one of the main points that really reels me in to want to use it. In terms of passives, Unholy Knowledge, definitely want to take that. Reduce the health, Magicka, and stamina cost of all abilities by 6%. Blood Magic, not something that you really need to have. If you could take this if you're using Crystal Weapon, but if not, you don't need to ever use Blood Magic. The next one, after blocking an attack, your next magicka, health or stamina ability costs 15% less. Great skill. You're blocking all the time. This is worth using. Reducing your skills cost by 15% after blocking. Well, obviously for a tank, what an amazing passive. So yeah, definitely take that. And then the final one, exploitation. When you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy to you and your group, giving them spell crit. This is about a 2 to 3% DPS increase for your group. So very vital. This is only useful for magicka groups though. If you're in a stamina group, this is completely useless. So you don't need this for a stamina group, but you do need it for a magicka group. It's a good DPS gain. And that would be the main reason to use a sorcerer. Other useful skills. This is your main heal. Unstable clan fear. It's a huge heal. I mean, in my current setup right now, I'm going to get a 15,288 heal, which is just absolutely insane. That is like, I'm not even buffed up. But based on my max health of 46k, I'm going to get a 15k heal. This crits for an absolutely insane amount. If you combine this with Restraining Prison, that's going to buff your healing by more, this heal can go absolutely crazy good. So this is your main heal, and it's an extremely good one at that. The only problem with it is you've got to double bar it. You've got to put it on both bars, or else it's not going to work. If you don't have it on 2 bars, when you swap bar, the pet will desummon, and then you have to keep spending 3,200 magicka to recast it. The next skill that you might use, if you wanted for some reason a ranged heal, you might use the Twilight. So in a range-based situation, it's not going to be something you use very often, but if you're trying to incorporate a bit of damage into your build, you're trying to incorporate maybe a group heal instead of a selfish heal, because the clamp fear will only heal you, you could use this to heal other people. Now, the heal that you're going to give is quite small, but it's better than nothing. It's still going to probably, if it crits, it's going to heal for a decent amount, but it's not going to be huge. It is going to cause some damage as well, though. So let's say, off the top of my head, an example, VSS Locusties fight when you're at the back of the room. Maybe you want to create some more damage. This is a range-based enemy, and it'll also do a heal, so you could use it. The next skill, Empowered Ward. This is a group buff. You wouldn't use this for yourself. You use this because it grants minor intellect to you and nearby allies, increasing your magicka recovery by 15%. So if you've got space on your board and you want another group buff, you'd use Empowered Ward to give your group minor intellect for a bit more magicka recovery. Then we've got Bound Armor, and ideally you go for Bound Aegis. This gives you minor resolve, which gives you more resistances, and it's got a 3-second. You can press it for 3 seconds, and it gives you a huge boost to block mitigation. Now, this won't be very useful next patch for the Waking Flame patch, because you can already get to the block mitigation cap of 90% without this. So at the minute, this is kind of good, because block mitigation that you'd probably be on in combat would be about 75% on a tank right now. This is going to take you to the block mitigation cap, reducing your damage, which is kind of nice. While slotted, you gain increased max magicka and minor resolve. So it does have passive abilities, which is the nice thing about it. But yeah, next patch it's not going to be that useful. Now it is quite useful, but it's one of those things. In terms of the passives, Rebate, restore 300 magicka stamina. When your non-ultimate Daedric summoning ability ends, Power Stone reduces the cost of your armor by 15%. Vital skill, because obviously you want your Warhorn to be 15% cheaper. Increases your health and stamina recovery by 20% when you have a pet slotted. It's fine. It's not really anything that you've got to have. The health recovery is nice, especially situationally for like Cloud Rest and things where you need a bit of health recovery. Stamina recovery is not that useful, but it is what it is. It's worth getting still. And then Expert Summoner, increase your max health by 8% when you have a Daedric summoning pet active. This is huge. Like, in some of my builds that I use for trials, I'm on like over 50k health in the same gear that I'd use for my DK, where I'm at like a bit low. I'm under 50k health, and then because of this passive, 8% more health, because you've got the Clanfear active, you end up over like 50k. It's mental. And then finally, Storm Calling. The only really useful skills here, Boundless Storm. This is a good one if you're trying to keep up Elemental Catalyst. So you just activate it. It's your major resolve skill, and it's going to just kind of cause lightning damage as an AoE, which is really nice. It's also going to give you Major Expedition, so it's a speed boost. So it has a lot of different functions. Lightning Splash you could use if you want to give your group a synergy. Not really that it's not really as vital anymore. It used to be more useful when Alkosh was a thing. Obviously, you could throw the lightning splash down near the other tank. They could use it for Alkosh, so that was good for that. Nowadays, not really as vital, so you wouldn't really see this much use out of it now. Then finally, the last skill, Ball of Lightning. I believe that you can use both morphs for different things, but for me, I like to use Ball of Lightning for specifically VAS +2. When I'm off-tanking VAS +2, this is a really nice skill. So you kind of just like port forward. It kind of it flashes you forward to a new location. You're immune to snares and immobilizations for 2 seconds. It can absorb projectiles. So when you zap somewhere, the ball that it leaves floating in the air absorbs projectiles. So this can be kind of good if you're porting during like the Lothis interruptible attack for whatever reason. Let's say you've got an interrupter, the Lothis interrupts the interruptible, and you're on the other side of the room, you do Ball of Lightning, and then it goes into the Ball of Lightning. You don't get hit by it. It gets absorbed by the Ball of Lightning. In the past, Zamarja's heavy attack in VCR would get absorbed by this. I've tested it, and I don't believe it works anymore, but it did at one point, which was really funny. So all you did was, as soon as Zamarja was about to heavy attack, you'd use Ball of Lightning, you'd teleport forward, and then the heavy attack would get absorbed into it. It was absolutely hilarious. But I believe that doesn't work anymore. Or if it does, it requires some really pinpoint accuracy timing. Okay, finally the passives. So we got increased magic recovery by 10%. Fantastic passive for tanks. We used lots of magical skills. Energized, increase your physical and shock damage. You don't have to take this if you don't want to. It's not super important, but you can get it for a little bit more damage. Increase your damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% current health they have. So again, not really that useful for a tank, but if you want to kind of add in, try and increase your DPS a little bit. For like more higher up groups, they do expect a little bit of damage from the tank. Do you know what I mean? 8 to 10k DPS on a tank is kind of normal for real top tier skill pushing groups. Maybe even a little bit more. In that case, you'd want to have all your damage buffs to go alongside that. Finally, increase your weapon and spell damage for each sorcerer ability slotted. Again, exact same thing. Not absolutely 100% necessary, but weapon and spell damage will increase the amount of healing that you do with your skills. So it is kind of still worth it just for the aspect that it's going to increase the amount of heals you can do. And that, everybody, is the Sorcerer Tank.